Highland Park. Is it chill filtered? Nope. Is it artificially coloured? Nope. Does it have a ridiculous Viking name? No. Does it have an ABV which is too low to taste anything? No. Have they finally listened? Hello Whisky fans, must admit that I am very excited about this one. This is Highland Park Cask Strength Release number 1, or batch number 1 some people are calling it. So when this was released, the first thing I thought was my prayers have been answered. This is going to be the 12-year-old, but at a proper strength. Because here in the UK, we have to suffer Highland Park 12-year-old at 40% ABV. I know in some countries, notably America, you get it at 43%, which has got to be better to some extent, I suppose. But this stuff bottled at a whopping 63.3% ABV. So that's really high. Actually, even for a cask strength whiskey, that's really, really high. So that is the first thing that I'm a little bit concerned about, because this isn't the 12-year-old. It is a no-age statement whiskey. So the fact that after however long that it's matured, it's still at 63.3% makes you wonder how long has it actually spent in a cask that it's lost that little alcohol content. So it may be really, really young. From the label, we do actually know more than we normally know about Highland Park whiskies. As I said in the introduction, we know that it's natural colour, non-chill filtered, high, very high ABV, no silly Viking name. I can't actually remember the last time Highland Park released a whiskey and it wasn't called Odin's Jockstrap or something absolutely ridiculous. I know they're proud of their heritage, we all are, but it's really cringy. But nothing like that on here. It's got a little bit of the normal for these days, sort of Viking Norse detailing. A bit of tribal stuff around the top there. But I can live with that. Looks really good, doesn't it? Apart from the fact that there's no age statement on there. Another thing that we know is a little bit different, that we know that the Highland Park 12-year-old is matured in a combination of bourbon and sherry casks. We know from the blurb on this one that it's matured predominantly, whatever that means, in sherry-seasoned American oak casks of different ages. So from that we should probably assume that it's a multi-age vatting of different years, and sherry-seasoned American oak, that's probably going to be sherry hogsheads, but possibly sherry-treated ASB casks, perhaps. But that's enough of that. Let's put that aside. Let's get some in the glass, see how it noses and tastes. Spoiler, I have tried this before. You can see that it's quite a bit gone from the bottle. I've tried this at different ABVs, so I'm not actually finding anything out really for the first time. It's all just for YouTube. But I will say that as a drinking strength, it's drinkable at full strength, which is what I've got here. It does benefit from having quite a bit of water put into it. If you're used to your cask strength whiskies, this is perfectly tolerable and you get pretty much the full experience, but it just takes the edge off it a little bit. If you knock it down perhaps somewhere in the mid-50s, I would say is the ideal drinking strength for this one. So on the nose I'm getting some fairly strong hints of toffee and the fairly regular apple that you get in almost all Highland Park that's not had some bizarre cask finish to it. There's also quite a really strong, actually, salty brininess to this, and salty licorice, sort of a salmiak, salty licorice note. A little bit unusual, but quite pleasant. And one thing that I am very pleased to say is that there is For a Highland Park, there's quite a lot of peat in this one. It's not drowned out by the low ABV, and it's not as covered up by the sherry as you might worry when you hear about the sherry seasoned American oak. The sherry influence in this one is actually reasonably minor, much more minor than the blurb on the packaging would lead you to believe. There is a little bit of spicy, orangey, sweet, fizzy sherry going on the nose, but more than that, there's lots of really nice Orcadian Highland Park peat, and it's a spicy peat, very slightly farmy peat, mixed with some Fisherman's Friend cough candy notes, a little hint of Palmer violets, and quite a bit, although not overpowering, quite a bit of oak spice as well. So, more than pleased with that. That's quite a nice nose. Let's see how it tastes. On the palate, I'm getting toffee apple, which is really nice, and it's a toffee apple that's had something a bit odd done to it. It's like a toffee apple with a big hit of spicy, peppery peat to it. Also getting some honey and lemon and clove. It's basically a hot toddy whiskey. It's a hot toddy that's already made itself before you add anything to it. This will kill or cure anything that ails you. It's fantastic. Also getting some more orangey sherry, some spicy oak, and again a little hint of Fisherman's Friend cough candy note in there as well. As for a finish, it's fairly long, probably longer than you'd expect for a fairly young whiskey like this, although it has got the ABV to back it up with some nice power. Hint of sherry, a little bit of peat in there, and again a little cough candy note. I'm going to give this whiskey a B, but disclaimer, it's a very high B, almost, very nearly worth a B+, but not quite. I'm going to give it a very high B. And I think the main reason why I'm not going to go as far as a B+ on this whiskey is that it's not the most complex of things. I think that it is apparent that it's reasonably young. I'm not getting any notes of really well-aged, mature, old stock in this, but it's not immature at all. But I would say that it probably tastes like it's between 8 and 10, maybe close to 10 years old, which is fine. But because of that, it's not the most complex thing in the world, but it does have plenty of power, and that's really the important thing here, because we've been suffering so long with piss weak 40% Highland Park 12-year-old. We've been suffering so long. This is what we've deserved all along. It's really a welcome sight to sore eyes. As for comparing it to the 12-year-old, it's obviously a world apart. It's just got the power to carry the flavours that probably are present in the 12-year-old that just get lost in that low ABV. And comparing it to the 12-year-old that I tried a little while ago from the 1980s bottling, I'd actually say that because of the extra power in this, it actually tastes closer to that vintage 1980s Highland Park 12-year-old than it does to the modern bottling. Not that it's really that similar to either, but because this is so much better because of the full power nature to it, it is closer to that legendary bottling of old than it is what you can get under the banner of the modern 12. I will also say that this is notably less sherried than either the modern 12-year-old or the 12-year-old that I tasted from the 1980s bottling, but that's fine by me, to be honest. It probably allows you to experience more of the distillery character and more of the peat, which is a good thing in my book. I do wish that it tasted a little bit older, but you really have to consider that I've been praying for this, and I think a lot of us have for a long time, a full-flavoured, full ABV Highland Park, so we can experience it in all of its glory, and we've finally got that. To expect this at the reasonable price point that it sells for to be older as well, it's really asking for a bit much. I'm basically just asking for cheap Highland Park 30-year-old at this point. I should really be happy with what I've got here, because this is exactly what I've been hoping for the 12-year-old for so many years. Fantastic. Cheers. Hello, is that Highland Park? Yeah, just cancel it. Yeah, we don't need the 12-year-old anymore. Cheers, bye.